Hello Libra, my name is Keith Haswell and I'm your astrologer for the day. I've got 40 years experience in the business and 30,000 clients worldwide. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this particular video, Libra, on your moon phases for January 2015. You know, the moon is very, very important because it's what's called a fecundating agent, Libra, and it's also there it moves very fast through the zodiac. It moves in 2.5 days, it goes through 30 degrees. So it goes through a whole sign, goes through a whole house of your horoscope. But in relationship to the sun, it has very great import to you. And this is what the phases of the moon are all about, are in relationship to the sun. And a new moon is when the moon is in conjunction with the sun, and that's a very good time, a very propitious time for you, auspicious time for you to be able to commence and start new projects and ideas until it reaches a full moon, which is when the moon is opposite to the sun. So what I'm going to do for you on this particular video is tell you what your moon phases are, and when you've got a good opportunity to commence and start new projects and ideas, and when you've got to consolidate things at the time of the full moon, because the time of the full moon is a time for consolidating the things that you've commenced and started in the previous 2 weeks. Now it's important to understand too, Libra, that this is it can only be a generality because it's for everybody who's got the same sun sign as you, Libra, or the same rising sign as you, Libra, and it's therefore a generality. So if I say things to you about children and you haven't got any children, then it doesn't have any meaning to you. If I say to you that it's about romance and love and things like that, and you're a 65-year-old person happily married and you're not interested in romance and that aspect of life, well then it's not going to mean anything to you. So it is a generality because I don't know your age and so on and so forth. But what I'm going to look at for you, Libra, is help you to understand that there's a tremendous sense of duality in your nature. You have a tremendous sense, the symbol there is the scales, and it's always a matter for you, Libra, of trying to find balance and harmony within yourself. There's got to be that balance there within yourself between the lower aspects of yourself that want to drag you down into habit patterns that you're trying to rise above, and the higher aspects of yourself that want to lift you up and improve yourself and listen to music and find balance and the beautiful things of life, and dancing and music and creative and artistic expression. So what I'm going to do for you here is to look at the moon phases for you to help you to understand that balance there within yourself that you're trying to seek, and to help you to tip the balance in favour of the positive side of yourself and not the side of yourself that you're trying to rise above, Libra, okay? Now the last new moon, which was a phase of your life where you were able to commence and start new projects over the following couple of weeks, happened on the 22nd of December. It happened in 0 degrees in Capricorn in your 4th house. Now that's a message to you which is different than Aries or Taurus or Gemini or Cancer. It's an individual message to you because it falls in a different house in your horoscope than it does for those other signs. So it's a message from the universe. On the 22nd of December, you had a new moon that was at 0 degrees in Capricorn and fell in your 4th house. So that 4th house is the house of the home, the family, and the domestic side of life. So that represented a good opportunity for you, Libra, between the 22nd of December and the 4th of January when the full moon hits. It's a good time for you to commence and start new projects and ideas that are related to family, that are related to the property side of things, that are related to parents, that are related to those who cohabitate with you in the home. So that has been a good time for you to commence and start new projects to improve the family situation, to change residence, to improve the home environment in some way, shape or form, and to bring the family closer together as a unit. But then on the 4th of January, there's a full moon. And that falls in your 10th house of your horoscope. So there's a balance there between the 4th house and the 10th house of your horoscope, where you're consolidating things. It's a consolidating phase when the moon gets into a full moon situation, which is opposite to the sun. And that's not a good time for commencing and starting new projects. It's a time for consolidating things to do with your 10th house and also to do with your 4th house, okay? So that's the full moon phase, consolidating things over the following couple of weeks until the next new moon phase. Now, the next new moon phase falls on the 20th of January. So that's a beautiful time for you for the next 2 weeks to commence and start new projects and ideas from the 20th of January onwards for 2 weeks, Libra. Now, it falls in 0 degrees in Aquarius, which happens to be your 5th house. So it's a good time for you for starting new relationships and romance and love if you're in the market for a new relationship over the following couple of weeks. It's a good time for you to commence and start things to do with the children if you have children, to do with their educational projects and things like that. It's a good time for you to organise and plan special social events and to go out and have a damn good time over that 2 weeks and to socialise and enjoy yourself and have fun. So that's a very good time for you for commencing and starting new romantic attachments if you're in the market for a new relationship in the 2-week period from the 20th of January onwards. Now, what I want to do for you also, Libra, is to help you to understand some of the other forces that you're dealing with in the month of January 2015, okay? Now, Jupiter happens to be going retrograde in January 2015, and so that has a special import for you because it falls in a different house of your horoscope than it does for Aries or Taurus or Gemini or Cancer. Now, when Jupiter is retrograde, it means that you can possibly have bad judgment because Jupiter being retrograde gives you temptations to make decisions and choices that are based on bad judgment and negativity. So be very careful about your judgment. Now, it falls in your 11th house, and it's been there in the 11th house for the last 9 months. So you've already noticed the impact of Jupiter there in your 11th house during the last 9 months. And that means that you've had a lot of happiness through friends. There's been a lot of happiness through other people's children, should they play a prominent part in your life. There's been a lot of happiness through friends, with new friendships being formed. A lot of group activities have brought a lot of happiness in your life over the last 9 months. And you've perhaps either travelled with a friend overseas, or else a friend has visited from overseas to visit you. So there's been a lot of joy in your life in that particular area of the 11th house of your horoscope during the last 9 months. But now that it's retrograde in the month of January, it's time for you to be very careful with decisions and choices that you make to do with friends and that you make to do with group activities and things like that. You can have bad judgment in the formation of a friendship, or you can trust a friend that's not worthy of that trust, for example, Libra. Now, it also impacts when Jupiter is retrograde, it impacts negatively upon 2 other houses of your horoscope, Libra. And this again is different in your life than it is in the life of the other signs. So it's a special message to your from your higher self to you about perking up and taking notice here. And it impacts negatively upon your 3rd house and your 6th house. The 3rd house is the house of contracts and agreements. So it means that you can possibly rush into a contract or an agreement that's not in your own best interests. You can have bad judgment in terms of communication with those that are close to you, like relatives and neighbours, when you've got a retrograde impact upon the third house of your horoscope. Be careful of motor vehicle matters, things to do with motor vehicles, short journeys and things like that. Be very careful about your decisions and choices and your driving on the road and things like that. Don't drive while intoxicated or under the influence of drugs when you've got that retrograde thing happening there in the third house of your horoscope in January, okay? Now, it also impacts negatively upon the sixth house of your horoscope, so it's not a good time for making changes in your job. It's not a good time to make bad decisions that are to do with diet. You could have bad judgment with regard to diet, exercise matters. You could have decisions and so forth that really impact upon your health adversely, such as eating the wrong food or or being lazy with regard to exercise rituals and routines and things like that. It's not a good time for you to trust people that you work with, because your judgment could be in error there to do with that particular aspect of your life. Now, I also want to look at the movements of Saturn for you, Libra, because Saturn is sitting in 29 degrees Scorpio in the month of January, and has been there for the last 2.5 years. So you've already noticed the impact of Saturn there in your second house of your horoscope. So what that means to you, Libra, is that you've had Saturn sitting in the second house of your finances and matters relating to your sense of security for the last 2.5 years. So you've noticed already a lot of difficulties with money and depression and worry and fears about your sense of security in life over the last couple of years. Not just your security financially, but your security emotionally and mentally. You haven't felt safe over the last couple of years there with Saturn sitting in your second house of finances and matters that relate to your security. You've possibly had some throat and neck trouble during that time, and there's been worries and fears and anxieties for you to do with your sense of security and financial matters. In particular, you might have made some bad judgments during that time. But Saturn is about to move out of that house now, so things will go a lot more smoothly from here on, and I'll give you a report there when I do your moon phases in February for you, okay? So that just gives you an idea there, Libra, of the type of energies that and forces that you're dealing with in the month of January 2015 and the impacts that they can have upon your consciousness. Now, what you've got the opportunity to do now, you haven't been brought to this particular video, Libra, by chance. You've been brought here to watch this video by your higher self, because your higher self wants you to hear the message that is being delivered here with this particular video. Now, it doesn't bring you here by chance. It's brought you here to listen to this particular video because it reckons that you're ready to make changes and adjustments inside of yourself now that you weren't ready to make even a month ago. So you've noticed that you're desiring to know more about yourself and more about the path of life that you're living in, and how you can become more of who you really are in whatever way that you've called out to that higher self. And your higher self has brought you here to see this particular video, and it now wants you to follow up perhaps on expansion of your consciousness. Now, by now, my website address has probably popped up on the screen, so you can write that down and you can visit my website, and I've got 12 CDs there out of my first book, What Really Matters, a book on astrology, meditation and reincarnation with my voice, with beautiful backing music, available for you to download free of charge there from my website. And so your higher self perhaps wants you to listen to what that first CD has to say, a message from your higher self to you about your growth and your expansion and your transformation and your changes that it wants you to perhaps take advantage of. So go to my website, download that first free CD from the website and listen to that and see what it means to you. If it means something, well then download CD number 2 and see what that has to say. And if you like that, download the whole 12 over a period of time and listen to them and see if you like that sort of material. If it doesn't mean anything to you, that first one, well then that's okay. Leave it for 6 months or 12 months and come back and have another go. Then you might be ready for what the message is that's there. Now also, I do free of charge sometimes what's called a horoscope number 1. Now what that represents is it represents me doing your horoscope chart, your personal natal chart for you, free of charge, and giving you a 7-page report on what I see there in your particular horoscope. Now, I can't always guarantee that this is going to be available, because when I do open this up, I get sometimes 40 orders in one day, Libra. 40 orders in one day means I've got to do 40 charts in one day. And I've got to do 40 7-page printouts on that particular person's horoscope. And I tell you, not just generalities to do with your Libran sun sign or your Libran rising sign, I tell you where your moon is. Now that's an individual thing to you, different from other Librans. And the moon rules your emotions, and where that sits by sign and by house gives you a certain nature emotionally. Mercury rules your mind, and where Mercury sits in what sign and what house gives you a certain mental development there and a focus in this particular lifetime, Libra. Venus rules your love nature, and where Venus sits by sign and by house, there's a certain part of your nature that is to do with your love nature. And Mars rules your energy levels, and where that sits in your horoscope by sign and by house is an individual message to you about your energy levels and your sex drive and so forth. So these are important things that your higher self perhaps wants you to hear about yourself. And that 7-page report, as I say, I can't always guarantee that that's going to be available, but visit my website, see if it is available. If so, you've got the option there to be able to submit your birth details and to get that done by me, and have a read of that and see what you think, because that might be a message that your higher self wants you to hear at this particular point in your life to help you to understand yourself more and to expand that consciousness of yours. That's the name of the game, Libra, is consciousness expansion. So it's nice to have this opportunity to be able to talk with you here. I thank you for your attentiveness, and I look forward to working further with you should you decide to submit your birth details. Thank you.